My name is Honey. I'm 19 and I work the streets on Robinson.
My real name is Angel. They call me Star.
And how old are you?
I'm just turned 23.
Just turned 23. And what age did you first start prostituting?
15.
Prostitution has been called the oldest profession, dating back to 2400 BCE. In the United States, prostitution was sporadically controlled until the passage of the Federal Mann Act in 1910, which prohibited interstate transportation of women for immoral purposes. Since then, prostitution has evolved into a moral battle for gender equality, revolving around the idea that women should have the ability to choose what they do with their own body, and that men should be able to buy sex from a consenting individual rather than force sex upon an unconsenting individual. Prostitution provides a market similar to other legal activities that some American citizens deem immoral: pornography, alcohol and tobacco use, and gambling. All supposedly pose some risk to the consumer or actors involved, and in the case of pornography, involve the sale of sex. So, should prostitution be legalized as well?
I mean, I understand that, you know what I'm saying, y'all feel like I'm bringing community down by what I'm doing prostituting because I really don't have to because I'm a very pretty woman. But this is what I have to do now in order to stack up and save and get where I want to be. I don't want to live like this all my life. I've been doing it too long. It's dangerous. They're killing people. You're going to jail. You know what I'm saying? It hurts me to my heart that I'm out here doing it. But what else I'm going to do? I mean, be homeless, be a bum, be what? You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I'm saying? I know how y'all feel, shoot. If y'all feel like that, help me out. Show me a better way. Come to me. Pick me up. Bring me to go look for a job. Hook me up with a job. I'll do good. I'll do better, but I don't have no support or no help. If I had somebody give me that direction, I would follow that direction. But this is all I know right now.
The main argument against legalization is that it is not a victimless crime and usually an economically driven act of desperation. The prostitute is a victim. They are being offered an incentive: money, drugs, or protection, specifically because they have a greater need for these incentives in exchange for the consent of rape, which would normally be a crime. They are not choosing to become prostitutes. Rather, it is a result of environmental and societal pressures. Research shows that a majority of prostitutes were sexually and physically abused as children, and more than 90% of surveyed prostitutes say they want out, but cannot because of their pimp, their addiction, or their need to feed their children. A prostitute normally works her first job before the age of consent, supporting the idea that they were never choosing to sell themselves, but instead forced to by outside influences. Because society promotes this perception that entering into prostitution is a choice, prostitutes feel shamed and ultimately return to their trafficker because they are the only ones that accept them and their choice anymore, starting a cycle that will always lead a prostitute to sell themselves again, similar to a drug addiction cycle.
Once you get into this lifestyle, it's like a drug. It's addicting. The money is addicting. So, I mean, I do have desire to get off the streets, but like I said, the money is really good out here.
We can get killed out here. Not only that, we want a man to love us and care for us. So we go to a pimp or a dope boy, man who sells dope, to be loved and cared for 24/7. And all we do is get eaten and beat. And I've been knocked out. I've been punched. Put in the hospital.
While working, a prostitute is often dominated, harassed, assaulted, and battered by their customers, resulting in long-term physical and mental health problems. A long-term prostitute often earns less as they grow older because they value their own body less than they previously had, and has a higher chance of spreading an STD to an unknowing customer. Prostitution and the spread of disease erode the moral values of a community and expose it to a higher potential for crime.
Yeah, there's a lot of money. I make $500-600 a day, but how many people am I infecting? How many people am I making sick? How many people care? How many men are taking HIV home to their wives? How many people are taking hepatitis C home to their wives? Yes, I'm infected with both. I'm dying and no one cares.
Legalization would also not cut down on the amount of human trafficking and slavery, but actually increase it. In countries where prostitution is legal, the increase of demand for prostitution largely outweighs the reduced demand for trafficked women over legal prostitutes, resulting in more women and children needing to be trafficked to meet demand. This is because legalization does not address, and instead takes advantage of, the systematic faults that lead to the marginalization of women: poverty, gender inequality, racism, classism, child sexual abuse, and a lack of educational and employment opportunities for women and girls globally.
We are all we got. At the end of the day, we are all we got. A lot of these girls, they be on drugs. Most of them be on drugs. I'm not going to lie about that. But you know what I'm saying? These are my friends. These are the only people who are here with me at the end of the day. When you got these other people who pass by us and look at us, you know what I'm saying, with disgust, like we are the worst thing that could possibly happen to a human form of life. But I mean, we are really good, genuinely good people deep down inside, you know what I'm saying?
The difference between human trafficking and prostitution is coercion. I'm not a victim, I'm not being coerced, but the law doesn't see me that way.
From the other side of legalization, prostitution is seen as a victimless crime and the choice expression of one's body and humanity. Prostitution is a consensual transaction, where the one most likely to be viewed as the victim, the prostitute, is also the one most likely to be charged with the crime. Arresting and punishing a prostitute who doesn't have a choice due to her poor situation makes no sense. We are punishing the prostitute for the poor situation society has put them in, and expecting them to excel, even though, by involving them in the criminal justice system, we've added more negativity to their already negative lives. Of course, they always return to their pimps. The criminalization only exacerbates all consequences of the act, similar to how prohibition exacerbated all consequences of the alcohol market. With government regulation, it would be easier to stop the spread of disease because there would be legal consequences for failing to check the prostitute.
In Las Vegas, the sheriff has just entered his 500th girl in his little black book of girls that were arrested working with HIV. So what happens in Vegas, it goes back to Des Moines, LA, San Francisco, all over the country. In 32 years, mandatory testing, every girl, every week, never a case of HIV. When you legalize it, it takes the STDs out of it, it takes the drugs out of it.
Also, regulation would force brothels to keep safety standards for prostitution, whereas in the illegal market there would be no incentive to keep the prostitute safe from violent customers, because she has no legal leverage over her pimp or her customer.
The difference between working in a legal place to working as a illegal prostitute is, number one, here at the brothel, we have a panic button. Out there in the outside, you have no protection at all.
In legalization, the customer base would change as well, because the sexual act would not be associated with crime, which made most buyers criminals to begin with, and increased their probability to abuse. Those that argue for legalization say that prostitution is, in many cases, a choice economic strategy. Some enter the sex industry not through coercion, but through choice, so they can support themselves and their families during struggling economic times. Accordingly, this choice and prostituting do not degrade women, instead empowering them, because they are choosing what they do with their body. Instead, we should punish those that use coercion to force women into soliciting prostitution, and respond humanely to those that choose the life, as to not add to any of their already negative calamities.
I do what I want with my body, when I want, and how I want.
Why should women be put in jail for having sex? We always have incarcerated women throughout history for being sexually active. In the 60s, we locked up girls in juvenile hall for being incorrigible. Incorrigible meant that they were sexually active and there wasn't birth control. So we were protecting them from themselves.
The argument for prostitution comes down to whether you believe it is a woman's right to do with her body as she pleases, and whether it is prostitution or the criminalization of it itself that erodes our morals and spreads crime and disease throughout our community. But prostitution also has a deeper importance. It represents a milestone in women's rights and is a huge symbol for free market, limited government, and removing how much control the government has over us and our day-to-day actions.